everyone. Today I'd like to bring to you the rather a big work piece that I've been working on for a few days now, and the information that's been coming to me has been revealing itself as I go along with the insights. So what I would like to share with you is really the explanation on what we are experiencing right now. It will be an introduction, and then it will be followed by the piece with the images for you to look at and listen to what I'm about to discuss with you. It is a big chunk of work, so I would urge you to take your time to go through it and to pay attention to the smaller details that I will be highlighting, because really the plans that are put in place has to do with we know that there's a Depop plan in place. I think it's pretty obvious that we can see that now for some time, but what the deeper detail has to or reveals is really something much more. And it relates to basically how a group of people, or the Ministry of Magic, or the morons of magic, whatever you want to call them, really represent the globalists' agenda, aside from the obvious that we are seeing in the material world. Now, underneath this video, you'll see a link to another channel, Desmond Bernardo, which is the information on the material world and the elements that are taking place in that. And this video will then add to that material as the material that is the invisible, or the unseen, or the occult agenda that goes hand in hand as a bigger piece of work. So I would suggest to you that you will look at the video that is underneath first, to see the material reality and its changes that are taking place. And then I would like for you to also then look right after, following after that video, this particular work as well. I'm calling it the Sin Eaters. And the reason I've chosen to call it the Sin Eaters is it is a folklore that demonstrates on a much deeper esoteric level how it was believed that there would be a certain kind of person or people or beings that would initially ingest the sinner's sins, and will take on to that person all their sins. In other words, contrary to, not contrary, actually it is a folklore that's existed long before the movie came out about the Sin Eaters. It is very important for you to understand what it means in context to this video. So I would like to suggest that this is rather a higher level sort of awareness that you must take note of. I will be highlighting all the esoteric aspects to what it is that the Sin Eaters are supposed to do, and that people who are spiritually connected need to be mindful of the smaller details that we will be discussing. Subject that will be covering what the energy of the system shows in a much deeper esoteric root, tying all the elements together from what we have now accumulated over the past years. And so I first want to give an introduction to how this has been revealed to me. And it, as you know, for those of you who have been on my channel for a long time, and for you who are new, thank you for coming onto this channel and for also reviewing the work with me and being part of this awakening awareness and connecting with Great Spirit. Keep that in mind at all times, that you are a unique being that is connected to your spirit consciousness. That means the awareness of your spirited intelligence, as well as your heart, your soul, and all the faculties in your physical form, as well as in your etheric form, which is the energy layers around you. So what the hidden plan is, or the invisible hand's plan is about, is to really use the material agenda, the material plan. That means the earth, the plan on the earth that you're experiencing every day. Use that as a backdrop to fuel their drive and what they want to bring into reality, their reality, which they are trying to overlap into our reality, which is what we perceive and what we are experiencing. Call it a type of parasitical envelopment of mind, body, soul, and spirit, trying to engage you to be constantly focusing on what it is that they want from you, which we know is always energy. Everyone always asks, what do they want? It's energy. It's only your energy. It's not really even anything about you personally. So you must never take any of these things on a personal level ever. Observe it for what it is and see what it is showing you. And once you're aware and observing this, you'll understand that it really is all about your creative ability, your sacred blueprint that is to be creative, and that you have free will, which they don't believe they have, and they don't believe anyone else has. But rightly so that they would believe that they don't have any free will, because essentially they were created within the first universe, which was once called, or is called, the void, which is what I'm calling it, mainly because it correlates to the first part in the historical book, the Bible, where it references the creation in chapters. And for you who are not aware of this particular information, please go to the section in the playlists about the knowledge. There are a lot of questions that were asked, and I've answered most of them as best as I could. And the information has also become very obvious for you to see what it was all about. So I reference where the universe, the first step of creation was, in the beginning there was void. I'm not quoting it verbatim. I'm giving you an example. And they live and have lived and existed within the void. The reason I'm saying that they exist in the void is because they are living souls. A living soul is a person or a being who only has the soul as its connecting point to this reality. In other words, it has to exist within this reality in a physical form. It will always try to live as much as it can. It doesn't have the capacity or the psychology or the intelligence of the spirit to go within to connect with the spirit. Not saying that they don't have spirit inside of them. I'm saying that they are not aware that they can do that. And so it's easier for them to then function within the physical reality, because they are then following the materialistic philosophy, which they would see as material world, the mud, the clay, the earth, as essentially their life force. That is what they have to live with. That is a choice, okay? They were created in the first universe. Their choice was to ascend from the first universe, which is the first day of creation. Each creation it referenced in the Bible is mentioned as a day, and the day is essentially a creation of a verse or a word or a universe put into place. Okay, so 7 creations in total. The human history, the human being's history on this in this reality, on this plane, on this planet, however you want to call it, in this universe, has always been to climb on the levels of the 7 universes. You literally climb over the levels of the 7 universe. You'll experience this every day of your life in your thoughts. But that is something for another day to explain. The particular work that I will be showing you also is the introduction to what it is that they would like to bring into place. They would like to have a birthing of an aeon, which is a Gnostic term for a god or an archon. An archon is really the Greek word or term for an aeon, so one that is put into physical matter. Okay, and so it is important for you to take note that now that they've started to incorporate all of the ideas on the physical reality, now they all start to accumulate and come together to reveal to you the invisible plan, which is how they operate. I'm calling it invisible. It's not because you can't see it, but call it then the hidden plan rather than for you to understand it better. And in that way, you'll then understand how they have put everything into place. They do, however, use the book of Revelations as a single standing book that is really for them, and they use that as how to create universes. They use a symbology and rituals within the book of Revelations to ascertain and create a universe, which is what they have been doing, and you cannot deny that. So let me start by saying that it is very important that while they are trying to create a new reality, which is a new universe, that it is very much based on using the people who have passed on, use their spirited energy, the essence, to build on the foundation of the first universe, to climb up to the next level of universe. Now, I have also said to you, and for those who are not aware of this, that we who are connected within our spirit and our soul and our heart, the heart is the center point, table, not location. The heart is in the middle between the soul and the spirit. When you have a connection with that and you connect it within yourself, within your third eye, within your third reality, you are connecting yourself and you become a star being. And why I say star being is because it is used as an example on the Freemason tracing boards, where they show very clearly that the center pillar is the star pillar. And so we have a place within this reality. We exist. They need us more than we actually need them. However, we need to become aware of them to see what they can do and what they are, instead of actually needing to shut them completely off. We can't do that. We have to become aware of what they are and who they are. Recognize them so that you are able to see what they are. And while you are aware of that, you then can recognize and see, oh, okay, you belong there. And that is where your rightful place should be and will be. and you will not have that place within me. And so really, that is the lesson for everyone on this plane and in this reality, to understand that you recognize a tree by its fruits, and then you are able to decide and discern where you would like to place the fruit in which category. Okay. How they are annihilating themselves is by way of then throwing themselves out of this reality. They do that when you put them back into their place. They can't pester you anymore. They can't be in your face anymore. You know that the parasite belongs to that category, so that is where you place the parasite back into its category. Put it back into the box where it comes from, and it will take care of itself. That is coincidentally how you get rid of a person or spirit that is malevolent, that perhaps pesters you. You send it back to where it comes from. They do not like that at all. Okay, so would like to start off by saying that the creation of the universe, their universe is about, like I said, using a lot of spirited energy, battery power, electricity, electromagnetic energy from people who have died and who are dying, and that is how they operate. If a person passes on, you leave an energetic signature behind, and that energy then is in the etheric form, like you would call it, like I think that they would call it ectoplasm, but it is not really ectoplasm. This isn't a mechanical name for something that is, you should be calling it something else. I'm just calling it ether, okay? Because we all essentially go into the ether, or we are already existing within the ether. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what ether really is. Ether is the fabric of the energy within what you exist in. Think of yourself as a fish inside water. Water is the ether, and when the fish dies, everything of that fish dissolves in the water, and the water absorbs the body parts of the fish, and it then becomes part of the ether. But contrary to the fish part, let's say the fish is God, or believes that it will go to the great clam, as the great clam is really where all things come from. The sea came out of this big clam, this conch shell, this whatever you want to call it, crab. This is just an example. Then fish dies with the knowing that fish will return back to its original creator. And so essentially your original source, or where we come from, is from a supreme being, which I call Great Spirit. And I've explained this before. So I am bringing it in again for you to understand where you are, where we are, where they are, what they do, what we do, so that you can understand how it all ties in together. So once fish is aware that fish was not created just out of randomness, like how, contrary to how they believe that they were created as, like Darwinian philosophy and beliefs, and scientism, which is almost like Satanism, because science should never have taken the place of as a philosophy. Their beliefs, your belief takes you to where you come from the great clam, and you will retrieve your little pearl when you leave, when you die. The great clam is so big that it exists, that the entire sea is inside the clam, and you, little fish, die and you go back into the clam, and you stay within the womb of the clam, the body, the belly. Does this make, I hope this makes sense. I hope this gives you some sort of idea of the mechanics or the logistics, again, another man-made words for something that is sacred when you are passing. You leave behind, out of your physical form, a track of energy, which is like your spark that comes from your soul and your spirit. Your soul ascends back into your spirit extends out of the physical form, and that returns to the great clam, to the great spirit. The great clam story is just an example, okay? It is not real. It is just an example. We don't know what goes on in the sea, actually. So, while that process is something for you to be mindful of, understand that you leave a track of energy behind. And that track of energy is really the food in which the parasite seeks to live off of. But because we've never put the bullies back in their place for a long time, the bully thinks that everybody that dies, that they can eat off of that's their food. We never put them back. We never put them back because we were conned by them. Call it that way. We were conned with the very first introduction to changing how we believe, how we once believed about the great clam, about the great spirit. And inherently, here that parasites exist started to take the identification of placing themselves in the upper position so that they could say, okay, there's just another fish dying. I'm going to just go and absorb all of that stuff right now. I'm going to hoover all of that energy up because really I think we should be creating our universe. Why should they? And they can't create. They can never create. They can only copy and steal and thieve, copy, paste and steal. All that they can do. Take whatever there is and copy, paste and steal. Over and over and over. Repeat cycle. That is all they can do. It's all material based. It's all materialism. It is all physical. They are afraid of dying. Okay, if they die, there's nothing of them left. That is literally what they know and they believe. Okay. So, to explain to you the next process of the information that we're looking at, I would like to bring to your attention that you now know what it is that they want and where they are and who they are, and that you should literally put them back into the void where they belong. That is how you will defend yourself, by adapting that process. Just thinking it will already help to strengthen your position where you exist. It is how it works. Unfortunately, I think when the second universe was created, we were all supposed to converge and become and connect together, and it didn't work because of the story of Cain and Abel. So literally they couldn't stop themselves. So, you can't change a psychopath. You can't heal a psychopath, but you can rehabilitate a psychopath's influence over you, inside of you, first. All right, let's begin. So there are a few keys for us to look at in terms of this particular period and to see what and how they all tie in each other. We know it's all orchestrated, obviously, but it's important to see the symbology and how it all fits together. So there's a few things that we have seen that we can actually put together, and I'm going to give their names or say what they are, just because of what we have been observing over time. And it started off with the first reveal of the corona pandemic. And they suspected that it was coming from China, which is the East. I want you to pay attention to the words within what I'm saying to you. I will explain to you and give you examples of what I'm saying so that you can understand the entire picture, because all of these revealings, they all tie and make a big story, and I will give you the big story at the end of this. So I would like for you to just stick with me, please. Okay, so they suspected that the coronavirus, pandemic or outbreak started in China by way of a lot of pneumonia cases. This is all quoted out of the website of their website, and the link is provided, and they called it novel corona. We know that the corona also means that it is based on a corona solar event, and there's a video that discussed this as the mental mind being captured. Okay, so already then it is on my channel. I will put the link at the end for you to see. And before I carry on, I would like to just tell you that you will read every single part, or once you go to my website, you will find everything in more detail so that you can understand what it is that I'm giving to you. This is just touching on everything on the top so that you will understand and have an idea. Okay, so the most recent common ancestor, because the ancestor of this thing, of all coronaviruses, is estimated to have existed as recently as 8000 BCE, although some models place the common ancestor as far back as 55 million years ago. End quote. Okay. The next reveal was the masking and the locking up. Okay. Right after that, the variants. The variants are like angels. They come with messages. From a website, the variants started off with the first ones, and the locations of where they come from was the alpha, which was first identified in the UK. Remember that these words are very important, and I will explain how it all fits in. Beta, as the first sample in South Africa identified. Gamma, first detected in Brazil. And Delta, first reported in India. And if you look at what these names all mean, you'll see that Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta all represent air, earth, water, fire, and I will show you on the map. These are all part of the symbol. It's a symbolic beginning. Okay. The next thing I would like to show you is that I would reveal to you is the 43 years ago, 100 years ago, I'm being sarcastic, group called ABBA with a new album called Voyage, and their sudden random appearance out of nowhere. Then the word metaverse, then the word omicron, then I'm adding this in for us to see the following energies coming together as Janus or Abraxas. Okay, so these are the things that I would like to reveal and explain how they will fit in. The Pythagorean brotherhood is also in around, you can see it. Pythagoras. Okay, so now I'm going to lay it out for you. So the corona was suspected to come from China, which we know all the stories about. Now I'm not going to go into details about the conspiracies and ideas and things. I'm giving you my information as I see it, as how it all fits into the esoteric information of the actual situation of the plan. Okay, what we must understand about China is it is in the east. This is also not going to be attacking any particular country at all, so please just be mindful that this is a lecture on the information as we see it as it reveals in itself. The East, or China, is also on an esoteric level means feminine, is feminine. Oriental, it is a lunar element. In other words, it is from the moon. And the series of pneumonia cases, which was then called novel corona. The most recent common, yeah, okay, I've read that to you. And what I want for you to understand is to grasp why these things were originated from the East, why it came from the East. It's where the sun rises, not so. So when the sun rises in the East, it means that there is a birth of something. Metaphysically speaking, a rising of the sun represents the beginning of a birth of something. Okay, so we know that the birth was about the crown, which is what corona means. The crowning of something that is being rebirthed or birthed. Okay? Why is it feminine? Why is Luna connected to the Orient? Because the Chinese esoteric energy is based on moon energy. They are on the lunar pillar. Okay? So we have, when you look at the tracing board, you are meant to look at it from all angles, 365 degrees, right around, looking at the entire board. It is a round board. It is not really a square, but it is squared off for you to understand things in a material process, in a material level. Okay. We also know that masking up and locking down is also part of the masking and closing and covering up the sound of creation so that you stop talking, muffling your voice. And the lockdown is the same thing. To put you inside a place, to put us back into our place. Do you understand? Do you see the pattern starting to unfold? It's all about putting someone back in their place. Putting the jack back into the box. Okay. Put the bully back into its corner. That is what it is. They're trying to put us back into our corner as well. Okay. Now the variants. There's a lot of story about the variants. Very interesting. Very much important for us to grasp. Is that these variants, let me see, alpha, beta, gamma, delta. There are 4 of them. They represent the elements, like I said. And if you look on the map, you'll see why they were discovered or why it was recorded in this particular order. This comes from their website. Okay, the link is provided, and so this symbol that it is creating is as you can see, that the symbol is the shape of a ribbon, and that is also the first triangle, which is the tetractys. And the reason I'm using that is because the Pythagorean brotherhood is involved in this as well. Or the knights, and later became the Knights of Pythia, which I will explain much later. These are all people that are involved, groups. There's so many of them. I'll only use what's relevant. Okay, and so the symbol of the ribbon is really, as you can see, the shape is the same as what is on the map. That is the first introduction to the first part of the creation, which is the tetractys is 10 points, 10 dots. I will explain this much later. Okay, then the next, which is very important for you to take note of, is the, and this is what the variants are about, okay? Everything else that's come after that forms a completion of the first half. So you would essentially find that this perhaps is creating an infinity loop or a infinity loop, which I will show to you now. Then we look at the group ABBA, which I have discussed prior in another video, and I will put the link there for you to see. where I've discussed what Abba introduction was all about, and the day that it came in was very specifically symbolic to the particular processing of explaining, or they use a lot of ritual. So this is another part of their ritual. Okay, they love to show and tell. Okay, everything is visible to you. You see it all. You just don't know how to connect it all together, and they like to bamboozle you with a lot of information all over the place so that you are essentially confused, because they believe that they are the ones that say that let us come down and confuse them. That is where that comes from them. That comes from the void. Okay. So Abba means, the word Abba means is masculine. It is also loosely a reference to father. It also, and the song Coming Back, what are the odds of that, of course? Singing about a song called Don't Shut Me Down from the album called Voyage. The words "don't shut me down" really is something that it is initiating a let's switch it up. Look at it in verse inverted, as well as looking at it for what it is. Abba is reverse of itself. The word, you break it up and you can see. So the next part, the entire album is actually filled with a lot of symbology. The songs of each of these albums are all part of a neuro-linguistic programming with a very hypnotic jingle that's connected to it. And the next song that came after that was who was called Keep an Eye on Dan. And you will see in the playlist that Keep an Eye on Dan is really reference to the tribe of Dan. And there is a link to that for you to do a little bit more research on. See, initially that they would want to, so the tribe of Dan, just roughly to explain to you, is Hebrew for judge. And so when they say keep an eye on Dan, then it means keep an eye on them judging, so that you will carry on with your nimble secret work, so that they can't really, so that the judge can't see what's going on. Really, that's what that's about. So, okay, and the lyrics of that particular song is about a divorce and a child that is called Dan in the divorce. So they are essentially stating very clearly, using this group of Sweden, which happens to be fully tagged and chipped as the divorce from Dan. They want to create their own world. They've made it quite clear even then. And so the meaning of the name Dan, etymologically speaking, is the text of the Torah explains that the name of Dan derives from Danani, meaning he has judged me, or in reference to Rachel's belief that she had gained a child as the result of a judgment from God. Okay, if you look at it on an esoteric level, that really means the child that is gained from God is about gaining insight, and they are jealous and upset about that. You know, they are jaded because they can't have that ability to create. Once you have connected your spirit and your soul and your heart and all your faculties together, once you have realized that you are not just a five-sensory being, but that you are essentially a multi-sensory being, and you are using your six senses within this reality, and you have so many other senses that you are constantly calling in to work with you, which becomes multidimensional. That is your child. Figuratively speaking, metaphorically speaking, it means that you have a child that you are looking after. You have to look after it, and it is your responsibility. Don't trade the child or your firstborn right for something that is material, which was referenced also in the videos of the knowledge section. Please go there to understand what that trade-off was. Okay, and then the next reveal, the metaverse. The analysis of this word is analyzed to death. I will give to you what I have gathered from my perspective, from what I'm seeing and how it ties in. It's a particular part of it that you have to tie in. The ritual of the metaverse and its requirements for the universe. Really, that's what it's all about. There's a link placed there to tell you how it works. They start off by saying how the metaverse is taking over the physical world. Funny how that is, hey? I mean, it explains it quite boldly to you. It uses the backbone of Web 3.0 as a type of technology, which is really defined as the creating of a higher quality content and services produced by individuals using Web 2.0 technology as an enabling platform. Web 3.0 refers to specific technologies that should be able to create the semantic web. The semantic web. Okay, it's very important that you take note of that word. What is semantic web? The semantic web is a vision, this is quote, is a vision about an extension of the existing World Wide Web, which provides software programs with machine interpretable metadata of the published information and data. So in other words, we add further data descriptors to otherwise existing content and data on the web, as you can see in the image. They will take the image of a tree and break it down to what they see. A tree is a trunk, leaves, and that is a tree. They'll add the little bits of detail in. Again, semantics also, if you go back into your common sense, the word semantics mean if, for example, it's a very derogatory explanation, but it will suffice, is what they have been doing in example is the molestation of a child, for example. A man molests a child, and the semantics interpretation of it is, oh, well, I'm sure it was just a sex, you know. See, in that way, that is how semantics comes in. Semantics is giving an interpretation from one particular person's view. So you can never really be sure of what you're seeing unless you see it for yourself and you be the judge of that. Okay, so semantics, they can give you a picture of a tree, but how do you know if it really is a tree? Well, anyway, that's just my commentary on that. So that is what they want to do. They want to have Web 3.0 come in so that the AI can learn how to understand and interpret the image. So, going back to the metaverse, just to sort of capture it all for you, I'll go into a little bit more detail shortly. Okay, so the metaverse, in a short description, there's a video that explains this, the way that they are explaining it. And that video will be, you can see all of these things on my website. The metaverse, seeing the video, okay, have a look at that, and it'll identify the artificial universe or verse that is created out of the debris of what is coming from the foundation of the current reality and of the void universe within this reality. Coincidentally, they see the void as a cave, okay, because they don't have any light within it. So they see themselves as Mithras, which is a Persian mythology on the man who came out of the cave and conquered the universes. He came out of the cave literally with a hammer, and he would break he would climb out from the foundation cave into another reality. So that is what they see. They see themselves as Mithras, you know, He-Man. He can break the foundations of the universe and climbing up to the top, okay? Remember Zhuge, lots of it, okay? all that glamour. It incorporates, when you create a universe, a metaverse. Let me put it this way: when you create a universe needs to exist out of a foundation for it to start off of. Remember now, this universe essentially exists within the so you've got the void. Let me use an example. You've got the void, and you have, like I have explained, a layered cake, and this entire universe is an egg shape. Okay, and the egg-shaped universe has a foundation, which is the void. The second one is the second universe, and the third universe, and the fourth, and so it goes on. Now, a universe needs these foundations to exist as. It also requires a lot of energy to make it work. And the energy that to make this universe work is built and functions within the energy of those who have existed prior. And when you live and you die, you leave a signature behind, like I've said. And that signature is an energetic signature. It's like your thumbprint that goes into this reality, becomes part of the sea. Remember the fish and the sea? Okay. So they want to basically create a fake universe because they can't create a real universe. So they go towards artificial intelligence to help create a universe. But while they're doing that, they need the debris, they need the foundation, the mortar, the spirit, the clay, the salt, all of these things of this universe within people, their spirits, their souls. They need to have that as the power to generate that battery to run that fake universe. Okay, because that is all they can do. They can, when I say they cannot create, I'm saying literally they cannot create. When I'm saying they cannot create, I'm saying they're copying things from everywhere and adding it in. What they can do though is steal. And so stealing and then reforming is what they're busy doing with regards to creating that particular thing, that metaverse. So it is based on the word meta comes from the Greek prefix and preposition meta, which means after or beyond, which combined with words in English meta often signifies change or alteration, as I said, reformation, reset, however you want to use that word, as in the words metamorphic or metabolic. So there's ingesting taking place on an esoteric level. Okay, so basically their motto for this thing is to download your mind into the system and become part of the simulation. Unfortunately, that movie or series of movies, The Matrix, was the introduction of that agenda long ago. I will be calling this thing the simulation simulacra, which is coming from a person, a philosopher in the 1981 treatise written by a person called Jean Baudrillard, in which the author seeks to examine, quote in quotes here, the relationship between reality, symbols, and society, in particular the signification and symbolism of culture and media involved in constructing and understanding the shared existence. In other words, look at what we are all doing on a social level. We can all work together to create this, but I will do this on the back of your back, because I can't do it myself. So I'll just make you see, look, we're all going to paint together this wall. You see how we paint the wall? And then you let go of the brush and you step back and you see all these other children painting the wall for you. That sort of thing. Okay, so simulacra. What does the word mean? Simulacra. Simulacra means copies that depict things that either had no original or that no longer have an original form. Okay? Copy. Simulation is the imitation of the operation of a real-world process or system over time. Link at the bottom. There are 4 stages. I'm going to call it, there are 4 stages of bending your awareness to accept their reality and how you then perceive in the model of the simulation simulacra. You'll see it. Okay? So this is how they do it. Okay? First stage is the faithful image, or the image that you'll actually see, the actual image. You're going to stand and you're touching the tree and you take a picture. That's faithful. He calls it faithful because it means it is real. Okay? Once you've taken a picture, it becomes a copy. Okay? Where we believe that it is still a tree. And it may even then be accepted as correct. That a sign is a reflection of a particular reality. This means that this is called the sacramental order. Jean Baudrillard, very dramatic, calls it the sacramental order, which means it is sacred image, a copy of an image. It is true to form. Okay. First step of an image. The next step is what they do. It becomes a perversion of reality. Once you take the picture and you airbrush it and you start to add little sparkles and dots and things to this picture of a tree, it then becomes, you then pervert the image. Okay? So you don't then just show the tree for what it was, where it stood, without airbrushing it and putting all kinds of Photoshop in it at all. You pervert it by changing the image, the quality of the image as well. Okay. Then people who see that then believe that that is really that is what you are seeing, that is then called an unfaithful copy. Okay. And then masks all of the little titivating that you've done to the picture, becomes a mask for what really exists. This is how they do this. Okay. The third step suggests the following words, quote here: the third stage masks the absence of a profound reality. In other words, you lose track of what is real. Someone in Japan can see the picture that you've taken and don't know whether it is real or not, because you've titivated it so much that obviously you're doing it in little small stages so that you can just slowly introduce another idea of what that tree really looked like. You know, just color in the branch where it was a little hole there where a bug ate it. Just color it up so it looks like a perfect tree, you know. Change the lines when you're showing a bit of aging in your face. Just, you know, airbrush out your wrinkles a little bit there, you know. So, and then color out that blotch there, so that you then look like somebody that, you know. Okay. You get the picture. That's how they do what they do. Okay. Then the next step, which is very interesting, very important for you to understand. The science and image claim to represent something real, but no representation is taken place, and arbitrary images are merely suggested as things which they have no relationship to. How can you prove that the picture of this tree is really the tree that I have seen? And so Baudrillard calls this order of sorcery. Okay. A regime of semantic algebra where all human meaning is conjured artificially to appear as a reference to the truth. Okay. Then the fourth stage is then called pure simulacrum. The picture of the the girl that's touched her face up sends it on a dating site, and this man thinks he's got like, whoa, you know, she really looks that amazing. Meanwhile, she doesn't really look that amazing. She wanted herself to look that amazing, and so he believes her simulacrum. Okay, in which the simulacrum has no relationship to any reality whatsoever. Here, signs merely reflect all the other signs, and any claim to reality on the part of images or signs is only the order of other such claims. In other words, how can a person who's dating this girl online now prove that this is who she really is? Okay, in simple terms. Here's an example of how this actually happened. And this is why history, books and things are very, you should question everything. Like, question everything you read and see. Always go within and then see. Okay, so any naive pretension to reality as such is perceived as bereft of critical self-awareness, and thus over sentimental. Okay, again, he loves to be dramatic in the way he explains things. Here's the example I want to give to you. A specific analogy that can explain to you the illusion of creating that sort of hyper real or metaverse artificial simulacra. Yeah. He writes about a person whose name was Georges Louis Borges, who wrote on a book called On Exactitude in Science. Okay, and he says, in it, a great empire created a map that was so detailed it was as large as the empire itself. The actual map was expanded and destroyed as the empire itself conquered all lost territory. So when the empire crumbled, all that was left was just the map, this one. In Baudrillard's rendition, which tells you that what they are trying to do is to reconfigure your awareness to reality, using all kinds of words to activate these, to show their signs and symbols. You see what they show you. You can only accept what they see, what they show you. How do you really know that the picture of the desert looks that beautiful or that red? Okay, unless you've been there yourself. This is why human contact and human progression and human organic existence is extremely important for you to adapt to that. I would suggest that you go out into your nature as many times as you can, as often as you can. Let it become a lifestyle for you to connect and understand what is true nature. And while you understand what is true nature to what you are seeing, you are activating the sacrament, if we use Baudrillard's words here, which is a faithful connection to what is around you in your physical surroundings, to then understand where you then fit in. To see where I fit in, I must know that I can connect with what is right next to me. Then I know, okay, I'm not a fish, I'm a zebra. Or I'm not a zebra, I'm a lion. Or whatever the case may be. Okay. So how many of these countries in the world, or these empires in the world, do we know now have really conquered all of the territory that they claim they have? That is a rhetorical question. So I've given a link here, which you will then have to find to read extra, do some extra reading work. And so now I'm coming to the next part of the revealing, which is called the magical meaning of the omicron, and I will call it the omicron, which seems to be actually better. Actually, I'm just going to call it omicron. It means 10 in Masonic references, and again, that is also analyzed to death. And I will give you my findings of what I feel is important to this work. Okay. So the origin of the word, other than the most obvious places, as you can see all over the planet, the websites, the emails, the internet, was that this variant was found in Botswana, quote unquote, from a website. And according to the WHO, it was originally called NU, but it was changed to Omicron, end quote. The WHO said the alphabets have been deliberately avoided. Quote, Nu has been skipped to avoid confusion with the word new, and chi, ki, si, however you say it, xi, had been skipped to avoid stigmatizing a region, obviously. From the website link here. So, on the other hand, I do want to add this in so that you find this is part of just coloring in the part of the story, the backdrop. So yeah, it is true that Omicron was a game that was developed in 1999 for Microsoft Windows. It was called Omicron, the Nomad Soul, starring a virtual voice imagery of David Bowie. Very interesting that David Bowie was put in there, since we know how David Bowie existed within this reality, and how and who he was, and what he was famous for. I do believe that from an esoteric perspective, that he was actually trying to show rather than to actually be more exploitive. I think his work shows more of what was going on. So rather than to ascertain himself to be part of it, I think he was struggling to show everything. Okay, and so about the game, here's a quote from the website of the game itself, where they say, the game starts like this. I have many things to tell you and very little time. I come from a universe parallel to yours. My world is desperately in need of your help. Only you can save us. Greater good, right? Greater good ideology. Responding to the desperate pleas of a mysterious character from another dimension, your soul must enter the dark and futuristic city of Omicron. This heralds the beginning of an epic adventure through an increasingly strange and dazzling parallel world, trying to solve the many puzzles that prevent you escaping alive. Think, fight, and interact with the immense gaming environment to defeat the menacing demons that have tried to trap you. End quote. Importantly, this part. Omicron is the 15th letter of the Greek alphabet. The letter is derived from the Phoenician letter Ain, A-Y-I-N, Ain. I might be saying it wrong. Please forgive me for that. So Ain, what is Ain? Ain, all I can think is Eon. It reminds me of Eon, actually. Aeon, it has a supposedly... So what is also important to note is that the word Omicron has supposedly 30 mutations. Where they come with that is just part of their website. They say that it's 30 mutations, okay? But coincidentally, that the number 30 means numerically in Hebrew death. So we have a death and a rebirth. We know that it's part of the Depop. We know that that's the agenda. That's the earth reality issue. The esoteric reality requires that which has died to come into their system so they can create this fake world, okay? In the next image, you'll see the Proto-Canaanite chart. Very important for you to take note of that. On this chart, you'll see that the letters and the meanings of what they are assigned to the symbols. And you will see that alpha is aleph, or bull. Letter really is an M. Beta, house. So the bull house, gamma, as you can see the symbol there, which is L, which looks like an L. So as you can see, and delta, which is dalet, or delta, daltu, door, which the symbol shows you an I. And then that the AN is also omicron. So it's very important for you to take note of that. Now, in the same image, you'll see that there's a little thing at the bottom there called vav or epsilon, which is that little ribbon that you'll see the first part of the little ribbon at the top loop, which means to manifest. Okay, so I would suggest you take a note of this image. There's got a lot of information on there that you'll see. Not everything is what you see. Not everything what you see is what you should accept. Okay. So another thing that's very important is, why is there a door created? Delta variant means door. I is the door. The I is the door. So what you take into your eye goes into the doorway. You accept things, okay? So what is being shown to you is food it enters into your eye, okay, and how you take into it. It also means omicron. How's that? And also in Hebrew means nothingness, related to ein, not, is an important concept in Kabbalah and Hasidic philosophy. What's the difference between omicron and omega? Because it apparently also ties to that word. The word omicron itself translates from Greek as omicron, which means small, and omega is the 24th and final letter in the Greek alphabet. The word literally means great, mega, mega meaning great. So something small before it becomes great. I want to bring to your attention the following part, which is tying into this whole simulacra simulation, which is what I touched briefly on Web 3.0. Very important. I'm now going to explain to you a little bit more in detail why it's important. Web 3.0 technology is built on top of Web 2.0 and Web 1.0, and can be interpreted as circle with dot as universe 1. Web 1.0 is 10, okay? 10 is the dots of the tetractys of the Pythagorean brotherhood. Why? Yes. Universe 1, see Masonic law image. The two lines on either side of the circle represents 11, or the symbol for Janus. More on this later, of course. And Janus, or Janus, in quotes, alpha and omega, or symbol of God, in the center of a circle bordered by two perpendicular parallel poles or serpents, representing the power and the wisdom of the creator. Okay, so they consider Janus as a creator, a god of gods as well. It is connected with sun worship, and the most ancient of religions, ruins of ancient temples, are devoted both to sun and to fire worship, as circular in the form, with a central altar or point, which was the Holy of Holies, or the circumpunct. The symbol is found in India, in which land or mystery and mysticism, its antiquity is beyond circulation. India also represents fire, as I've said to you. If you go back to the variants, you'll see that the variants indicate India on the map as the Delta variant, which is the door or I. Okay, and so in which land and of mysteries and mysticism, its antiquity is beyond calculation, of course. It's always too much for you to handle. In ancient meaning, the point represents the sun, and the circle, the universe. This is both modern and ancient, as a dot is a small circle, is the astronomical symbol for the sun. There's a link. So, moving on to the next person, to the next thing, the next reveal. We're going to touch on Pythagoras. Okay, Pythagoras was a celebrated philosopher who lived in the 6th century before Christ. In the course of his extensive travels through Ionia, Syria, and Egypt, always Egypt, he has been initiated into all of the famed mysteries of these kingdoms. Of course, he knows it all, right? So it was a desire likely to arise in the mind of such a benevolent, reflective man to form a perfect system of philosophy by selecting from the systems into which he had been initiated whatever seemed peculiarly excellent, and perhaps even improving on them. So that's where the part of the improving the reality that we're existing in comes in. He settled in Crotona in Italy, and there, about 550 BC, founded a fraternity of disciples called after him Pythagoreans. He is best known for the Pythagorean theorem, which bears his name, known as the father of numbers. Wow. Pythagoras made influential contributions to philosophy and religious teachings in the late 6th century BC. Pythagoras and his students believed that everything was related to mathematics and that numbers were the ultimate reality. And through mathematics, everything could be predicted and measured in rhythmic patterns or cycles. Pythagoras once said that number is the ruler of forms and ideas and the cause of gods and demons. The theorem sees the tetractys and what each aspect means rules. For Pythagorean brotherhood was silence. So the information about this tetractys was ruled with silence. So secret society, right? The Pythagoreans observed a rule of silence called ecemithia, the breaking of which was punishment or punishable by death. This was because the Pythagoreans believed that a man's words were usually careless and misrepresented in him, and that when someone was in doubt as to what he would say, he should always just remain silent. Of course, that's logical. But I suppose this is where all of the information started to get twisted up. When there's a word, when someone says it's secret, then that is what definitely spurs on the curiosity for information to be spread around like wildfire, right? It's completely the opposite. If you want to spread information, you must just say it's a secret. Okay. So what is the role of the tetractys? The Pythagoreans swore by the tetractys of the decad, or 10, 1 and 0, like Web 1.0. A pyramid set up with 10 points. According to Pythagoras, it is set up to be the universe. Okay, now if you've already decided on that point, there's no space for anything natural, I suppose. Natural beliefs suggest that the universe was constructed, they call it natural beliefs. So they believed that it was suggested that the universe was constructed out of 4 elements. The Greeks interpreted Pythagoras' philosophy as seeking the arc or arch. Plato interpreted it as the Greek word arche, meaning origin or source. Our word archetype incorporates the Greek term. In his discussion of the immortality of the soul in the Phaedrus, this is now Plato, Socrates refers to the soul's movement as the ultimate arch or arche of all other movement. Obviously, there's no mention about the spirit, of course. So again, the veneration of the soul seems to be the thing, the main thing, right? This arche has no origin outside of itself and cannot be destroyed. Okay, completely wrongfully interpreted, but interpreted from what they only know. So we can say that they are operating as living souls who operate and give information from a only soul focused material existence. So in other words, the metaverse is a simulated version of a soul or an artificial soul. However, the Babylonians used these same ideas, right, basically before Pythagoras ever came up with them. So it seems to have been a story that came from the beginning. The triangle as described here suggests that the top is called the monad, the dot monad, circle of the dot, is from the knowledge video set. Please have a look there and you'll understand what the void means as the first universe. A little bit of background reading on the tetractys and what it philosophically meant was that the one was, and this is from a link from the website, from Wikipedia. One meaning the top point means monad. The second 2 points means the dyad or the power, which means unlimited. The third point means harmony or the triad, and the fourth cosmos, which is the tetrad. And the 4 rows add up to 10, which was unity of a higher order, the decad, or the 10, which forms the first triangle in the variance on the map. The tetractys symbolizes the 4 classical elements: fire, air, water, and earth, of course. The tetractys represented the organization of space. The first row represented 0 dimensions. The second, 1 dimension. The third, 2 dimensions. First row represents 0 dimensions, which is a point. The second row represents 1 dimension, which is a line of 2 points. The third row represented 2 dimensions, which is a plane defined by a triangle of 3 points. And the fourth row represented 3 dimensions, a tetrahedron defined by 4 points. In other words, creating a view on how the reality should appear, which is incredibly masculine because of the lines, very linear lines. Okay. Then they even had a prayer with regards to the philosophy, and the prayer of the Pythagoreans shows the importance of the tetractys, and it's sometimes called the mystic tetrad, as the prayer was addressed to it. And it starts like this, quote, "Bless us, divine number, thou who generated gods and men." Gods of gods, right? "O holy, holy, tetractys, thou that containest the root and source of the eternally flowing creation. For the divine number begins with the profound, pure unity until it comes to the holy 4. Then it begets the mother of all, the all comprising, all bounding the firstborn, the never swerving and never tiring holy 10, the key holder of all. And as a portion of the secret religion, initiates were required to swear a secret oath by the tetractys. They then served as novices for a period of silence lasting 5 years. Citation, quote, end quote. So the Pythagoreans' oath also mentioned the tetractys. So it's in the prayer and in an oath as well, and the oath is like this: by that pure holy 4 letters named on high, the 4 holy letters were also influenced and inverted to create the YHVH, which is where the misunderstanding comes from about what particular God we are looking at. So, nature's eternal fountain and supply, the parent of all souls that living be, by him with faith find earth, I swear to thee. Okay, the next paragraph explains that it was also music. I would suggest for you to just have a look at that as well. So the tetractys, also known as the decad, is an equilateral triangle formed from the sequence of the first 10 numbers aligned in 4 rows. Okay. The rest of the information is on the website, as I've said. Please find it there to read a little bit more. Okay, so now if you've noticed in the beginning that I've mentioned that these are all the building blocks of how to create a universe. It requires the 4 elements: earth, air, fire, water. This is just a recap of everything so far. And the initiations of the stages in which there must also be a God. Remember that a universe can't exist without a God. Okay, that is just a law unto itself. Just as the variants indicate that it started with an alpha variant and then going towards the delta, that is the door, which is the aeon, then it leads to the omega or the omicron or the null point or the 0 point. The pillars on each side, which shows you one line is alpha and the circle with the dot is the universe, and the other pillar, the delta, the circle with the dot is the omega point or the omicron point. And so where's the God? There's been hinting a lot about who this particular God is. And so what is kind of obvious, which leads us to the next part of this discussion, is we look at the symbology and everything for what it is, and we can see that 11 is coming up a lot, 1 and 1 is coming up a lot. There's a God of gods, and it's mentioned all over the place. So I've literally looked to see who the God of gods was, and the information came to me very interestingly in a dream, where I had been shown that we have this reality, and within this reality there is another reality busy being built, like a pocket reality, okay? And in that reality, this thing that's being built, it's like a fountain that's coming out like that. It represented itself as a big, fat, massive snake, and it was huge. It consisted out of 10 streams, 10 electrical streams inside of the snake. Okay, so it's like a cord, like an electrical cord with 10 smaller cords inside of it, and the 10 comes through as the tetractys monad. Okay, then because it's black or cobalt blue, it is the color of technology and electricity, and that snake was essentially coming out of this bowl of energy that was being built, and that is like a wormhole. Okay, and this snake, I will show you in a drawing what I saw for you to understand it much clearer. And as you can see, that the top of the snake, or the mouth of the snake, sucks energy in, and it anchors into Rome. And in Rome, what is in Rome that has that much power other than the Vatican? And I'm not going to call it the correct word. And that Vatican is the mother of souls, all right? It is known as the mother of souls, or the mother church. And what other than saying that is what it is? So when I did a little bit more digging into that, I understood that the mother of souls, or the Vatican, is also tied up to the Basilica, which is Saint Peter of Basilica. And that in itself then tells me that it leads me to the next archetype or the next embodiment of the information, which leads me to Abraxas. And Abraxas is a Gnostic god that is known as a god of gods, where it essentially has the feet of that is made out of snakes. It has also got the head of the rooster and the body of a human, and the human is the center point between the wings, the air, the crow, the chicken, the rooster, and underneath the snakes, which shows you that humans are also tied into the 0 micron point. The human embodiment is between those two. So in other words, in your thoughts, your third eye can become used into the omicron philosophy, or you can become in control of yourself and allow yourself to not be involved in trying to give more to that system of belief. And so why does the Vatican, Mother of Souls, require so much power from all of the through the snake to absorb all this energy? Because it contributes to the manufacturing of that universe that they're busy creating. And Abraxas then leads to the Roman god called Janus. And so for interest's sake, it is important for you to understand that Janus is very much also known as the god of gods. And so, which leads us to the pillars of on each side. Back again, we're going back to that symbol with the 2 pillars and the circle with the dot in the middle, which is also shown when you look at Janus as the 2 pillars or the 2 heads that are looking the other way. Those who control the past can control the future. Remember that. That is their motto, okay? And so I want to say that I have a very strong feeling that it relates very much that it is Alpha and Omega, okay? The heads are Alpha and Omega. That is, remember, these are all mythological archetypal elements that they put into the program for everyone to see. They show everything to you. It's not hidden from you. You just need to know how to look. Okay. And so the mythologies stipulate that that this god is also a god of doors, and the doorways or the doors is also connected to the Delta variant or the Aeon, which is also then again called the circle with the dot. Gosh, that's just going in circles, right? And so Janus is known as the god of doorways. It is ancient Roman religion and myth. Janus, Latin Janus, is the god of beginnings, gates, transitions, doors, time, duality, doorways, passages, and frames, and endings, etc., etc., etc. I mean, this guy just knows it all. He's usually depicted as having 2 faces. Janus presides over the beginning and the ending of conflict, and hence war and peace. Remember, this is Roman, okay? And so my dream ties into this discovery. That is why I'm tying it all in for you. The background to Janus, so that you can see that all of the series ritual work is an image of trying to create a god to run this unit, to that universe. Okay, that little storm in a teacup. And it uses all of these things to put it in together, so it becomes this massive story. I mean, look at Revelations, it's just filled with all of the steps on how they've done it. And it really is one great nativity scene, not so? So, I keep saying there's a carbon copy being made with regards to creating a carbon copy of this god. I mean, they're creating a carbon copy of things into their little teacup. And this teacup requires a lot of electrical power to run it, right? So with an artificial eye to run it as well. So carbon, coincidentally, is also because of nanotechnology, is also based on carbon. Carbon also plays a vital role in nanotechnology research and nanotechnology applications. Carbon is a non-metallic element presenting in the cells of organisms, so it means it can actually be manipulated. So makes one think about the carbon tax, right? Okay, so for interest, Janus is also is always going to appear as two sides of something, which means they keep forcing the duality to come in. They don't have anything else to do. They see themselves and they see that which is in front of them. That's why it's always duality. And for interest, Rome opened the arche or arch of Janus after 28 years. 2 and 8 makes 11, which is Janus's number. Just a few weeks ago in November. Here's a link to that particular article and the image so that you can see that archways, and whenever you look at any imagery on any buildings, it is always an arch. You'll see that they venerate Janus. So now I'm putting all of the information together for you. All of these revealings, they all tie into a little story, which is what they've been building on for some time. And literally, this is about creating a little universe, a little storm in a teacup with a little universe inside, with a little garden that's there, with a little people that gives energy to it, and that's what they want. Okay, because seriously, they get really upset that we, they can't create like us. So what we should do really with them is just put them back into the void, back to where they belong. And we need to then reactivate our abilities to become aware of that. Okay, so the last book, as I've said, Revelations, it's very important to note that it's every chapter that's printed in the Revelations is being used in accordance to the Ministry of Magic. Their entire drive from the very beginning was and is to escape the original void universe. Remember, the beginning is void. The next chapter to this creation story is to take over the second, which is what they've now been doing with, they can't take anything over, but they can create something over it. Okay, so it overlaps the second universe. It's like a mask over your mouth, pretty much. Seeing the mask like that. Okay, so now, the interesting part now is that they have managed to overthrow to overlap the second universe. They can't overthrow it. They've overlapped it, only done that by creating a fake verse over it. You can see them as creatures trying to, climb on top of everyone, climbing over everyone. Okay, so for interest's sake, I'm going to read you a quote. So here's the story that I've now wanting to put all of the parts together for you so that you can have a look at it. It starts off by saying, let's create a god in our own image. Excuse me. It needs to be crowned. It was meant to be the child called Horus, but it was born dead. The reason it's been born dead is because we managed to stop it from coming in. And because in fairness, it is also trying to keep pushing that agenda back in. So for those who have been trying to bring Horus in, it's dead. So stop. It can't come in, even if you tried all your rituals, it doesn't work. We've managed to block it. And so wanting to create a carbon footprint for everyone to follow, the most ingenious plan to birth during a solar event and a lunar event, because that's all they can do, is to use energy from the environment. So much for them hating it. Or they actually just hate us. But anyway, they do it because they don't have anything else to do, so really. So now, the first revealing told us about corona. It is really the birth or crowning, or the crowning of a birth. When a woman gives birth, there is a crowning taking place, okay, of this baby. And that would be the crowning of the new child, or the aeon. Crown corona, corona from the east, seeing the sun rising and seeing a birth coming out, and then following the stars in the east, like the wise men did in the book, using the breath, or the pneuma, or the pneumonia, ancient Greek with pneuma, using the word pneuma from the text pneumonia that they found in China, meaning air. Okay, pneumatics uses compressed air to carry out a mechanical work. Control components and transmit signals, that's also what it means. And the map of the world variants show in an order to symbolize the reference, which shows you the reference of the 4 angels on the corners of the earth. Their corners, okay? So they've marked the corners out, okay? And adding to the concoction of this reality, obviously, all the other stuff that's mixed in, the drama, the pandemics, the lies, the bullshit. They then create their Web 3.0. It's an artificial universe built on all of the drama and the chaos, the blood and the pain and the sweat and the tears, and spirits and souls and salt, mud and clay, and you name it. And along with that, the birth of a god. Their god. They see themselves as a little god, using none other than the Vatican, or the Peter of Basilica inauguration of Janus. It's now got an alpha and omega point to signify their universe. Remember, it's just a teacup with a little storm in it. Okay, keep that in mind. As much as they're trying to make you believe it's so powerful, it's going to swamp your brain. Don't let it feed into you, or you don't feed into it. So, but remembering, like I've said to you, that the whole part about the sin eater really is about trying to use those of us to take or absolve them from their sins, and or the people that are going to be taking part in the simulacra, and they would be then automatically engaging in the contract of becoming a sin eater. And remember, I said to you to end it off that the sin eater really is a person that takes another person's sins and then that one's free. Really? Who does that? We're supposed to do our own thing. I'm leaving all of this with you. Thank you very much for supporting this channel and being part of the living presence of Great Spirit within every one of you, every one of us, all of us on this channel. Whether you are known or unknown, you who are very connected to your heart and you are unique in your internal sovereignty, it is very important for you to become mindful of that process. And I'm leaving all of this with you. Please ask questions. If you don't have questions, please also connect on the Telegram. Like I've said to you, it's on the About section. It is important to have most of everyone that is on this channel on the Telegram group. We don't know in what way the material would still suffice or stand in this reality, although I would want to say we decide that we are still able to communicate and connect with each other the way that we have been. It would be really dumb to really cut down things to such a level that there's really literally no consumers left. So in a way, as much as consumerism is a problem, they need the consumers also. Okay, I'm leaving this with you guys. Much love.